What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another spring report practice here. We are going spring practice reports is what I actually meant to say. It's Matt, one of the co-founders of Campus to Canton, and I'm here to take you guys through a quick ride around the country to discuss all the latest news in spring camp. All right, so another kind of short episode for you guys today. Unfortunately, there's really not a lot. A lot of these teams are into the third, fourth day of their practices. Not everything is open to media, and some of these coaches are not willing to discuss certain things. So we're only going to talk about four schools today. Kentucky is where we're going to start, though. Practice started yesterday for the Wildcats. Not a ton of news coming out of the camp right now, but it does seem like they are really excited about building this offense around the returning upperclassmen in Will Levis and running back Chris Rodriguez. There's definitely a lot of hope and promise around new offensive coordinator Rick Scangarello. And it's Rich, not Rick, who's coming from the NFL to hopefully develop Will Levis. We saw Will Levis has some really good games last season, and there's definitely already some first-round buzz hype around him. Obviously, if Rich Scangarello, who has done a good job with quarterbacks in the NFL, if he can come in here and kind of help improve Will Levis, is going to be a good thing for him and probably a good thing for Kentucky. They've definitely got some questions to answer with what they've lost in their wide receiver room. But I do think Kentucky has a chance to be a good team, and I'm excited to see what this means for Will Levis. Next up, we're going to go take a look at the Tulane Green Wave. Quarterback Michael Pratt, who I believe has an intriguing skill set, and is a guy that they could be a sneaky high-end quarterback in the 2023 draft, has decided he wants to try and add some weight this spring to help avoid any injuries when he's playing. He does expect the team to bounce back from the 2-10 season last year. He is excited about Ashad Clayton. He's a guy that I've really liked who transferred in this offseason, but there wasn't much else about Ashad Clayton outside of Pratt mentioning him. Pratt did discuss that last year he dealt with a pretty banged up shoulder that it actually took quite a while in the offseason for him to finally heal, but he is fully healed and is back at 100% for this season. Has also been working on his mechanics a little bit as well. So Michael Pratt, a guy who I'm excited about. He was his freshman season was a top 24 scoring quarterback. Last year was at times, but then did deal with injuries, clearly. I think that may have affected him in his fantasy production and just his production on the field. I'm excited to see what it means for him now that he's fully healthy. Hopefully with him adding the weight as well, that can keep him a little bit healthy throughout the season. Going over to the West Coast and Oregon, they kicked off practice today. New head coach Dan Lanning and offensive coordinator Kenny Dillingham are already hard at work. Lanning did not give much away in his after-practice interview. The two big questions, though, obviously here for Oregon are who will be their starting quarterback and who will be their running back. At quarterback, Bo Nix, Jay Butterfield, and Ty Thompson all took reps. And reports are that Nix and Thompson both looked fine, while Butterfield unfortunately struggled making some accurate throws. I don't necessarily think Butterfield's really in the competition anyways. I really do think the battle is likely going to come down to Nix and Thompson, both looking good in the first day of practice. The running back room was decimated this offseason with transfers and players leaving. Right now, it is just Byron Cardwell and Sean Dollars are the only two upperclassmen left on the roster. Both were out there and in padded practices. If I had to take a guess, it's obviously going to be Byron Cardwell, or not obviously, but I believe it's going to be Byron Cardwell. He's a guy that we have kind of hyped up over at C2C a little bit as being the guy. But Sean Dollars is definitely in the mix. The big news I took away from the running back room, though, was former four-star running back in last year's class, 7 McGee, has now been converted to wide receiver, and he will only work there. Dan Lanning did come out and say that he doesn't necessarily want to limit anyone to one position, but does believe it is the best opportunity for McGee and the best move for Oregon football. He was one of the better receiving backs last season, so it should be an interesting transition for him. Last listed at 5'8", 175, so that's the size of like a Wandale and Calvin Austin from this last draft class. He's got some explosiveness. Should be very interesting to see if they move him into the slot and what this means. But he did go on and talk about how he thinks this is the best move for McGee and for Oregon. So very interesting to see what happens there. I thought he might have a chance to do something at running back, but he is moving on to wide receiver. Last but not least, I wanted to talk about Ohio State, and it's not necessarily because I love Ohio State. For all of you that know me, I think there were some very interesting things that came out of practice today, and some things that were told to me, including something I want to touch on at the end of the show. That is going to be, in all honesty, a little bit of a serious note. So at wide receiver, everybody's been seeing the picture circulating of Marvin Harrison Jr. looking absolutely jacked. If you look at what he looked like coming in as a freshman compared to his sophomore year, it's a miles different. He said that he made it a goal this offseason to put on some weight and is currently sitting at 6'3", 205 pounds, and wants to stay at that size and, in his words, stay lean. He thinks it's going to help him play better. We got confirmation today that Julian Fleming is locked in as the Z position starter, and Jaden Ballard is actually the two behind him. That does put Marvin Harrison locked in at X, and that likely then just moves JSN locked into the slot, though neither one of those were confirmed. But Marvin Harrison and Emeka Egbuka have been moved around the formation all over the place. They've all played multiple reps at the X, the Z, and in the slot in the past couple days of practice. And the word out of that is they want to get these guys multiple reps at each position so they feel comfortable everywhere in the formation when the season starts. They are the two that they expect to move around everywhere. So in saying that, I imagine Marvin Harrison most games is going to start at X, possibly get moved around, which then moves JSN, is going to stay in the slot, which is a great place for him. He's one of the best receivers in the game. I thought they might move him around like they did Garrett Wilson. Doesn't seem like they're going to do that much. It looks like he is likely going to be in the slot most of the time. The running backs, Evan Pryor says he sees an opportunity to jump Mayan Williams this spring and is trying to capitalize on that. He wants to work more on taking what's given instead of dancing around in the backfield. He felt like that was part of his issue last year. Dancing around for 5 yards, looking for the perfect hole. Now, when he sees the hole, he's taking it, putting his shoulder down. I did want to touch on one thing really quick with Travion Henderson. I thought this was an interesting note because some of us were maybe not concerned, but we were curious as to why he was coming off the field a little bit at the end of last season. And apparently, we thought maybe it was because Mike Williams was back healthy and was still kind of in the mix. It actually turns out that Henderson was dealing with a few injuries, including some concussion-like symptoms without the actual concussion, according to him. He would get very bad headaches and had to at times come out of the game for a minute, which caused the staff to worry, and they struggled on when to put him back in the game because he kept testing negative for concussions. But the way that he felt, it felt like a concussion. So it was very nerve-wracking for him and the staff. I will say props to them for not just throwing him back out there. Obviously, doesn't seem like it's anything serious. He said that he's good to go, so I think that just means wheels up for Henderson. But just kind of wanted to touch on that from the end of last season. And last but not least here, and I just wanted to touch on this. I'm gonna read it here. So for those of you who don't know, Harry Miller, an offensive lineman for Ohio State, he retired today from football. And I just want to read this to you guys, his statement, and I'll give you quick thoughts really quick. He said, "I am medically retiring. I would not usually share such information. However, because I have played football, I am no longer afforded the privilege of privacy. So I will share my story briefly before more articles continue to ask what is wrong with Harry Miller." This is a good question. It's a good enough question for me not to know how to answer it. Though I love how it's asked it. Though I have asked it often. I'm sorry, I'm butchering this. Prior to the season last year, I told Coach Day of. I should say, I'm sorry. For those of you who there's some, I don't want to say graphic, but some serious stuff that is in this article. If you have issues with self-harm or anything like that, I would say thank you. I'll be back again tomorrow. I would not continue to watch this because he is very open and honest about some things that dealt with in his personal life and his mental health. So he said, prior to the season last year, I told Coach Day of my intention to kill myself. He immediately had me in touch with Dr. Candace and Dr. Norman, and I received the support I needed. After a few weeks, I tried my luck at football once again with the scars on my wrist and throat. Maybe the scars were hard to see with my wrist stays up, but maybe it was hard to see the scars through the bright colors of television. Maybe these scars were hard to heal through all the talk shows and interviews. They are here, and they are hard to see, and they are easy to hide, but they sure do hurt. There was a dead man on the television set, but nobody knew it. At the time, I would rather be dead than a coward. I'd rather be nothing at all than have to explain everything that was wrong. I was planning on being reduced to my initials on the sticker of the back of the helmet, and I had to see people. I had to people seek help. I had seen people seek help before. I had seen the age-old adage of our generation was softening by the second, but I can tell you my skin was tough. It had to be. But it was not tougher than the sharp metal of the box cutter. And I saw how easy it was for people to dismiss others by talking about how they were just a dumb college kid who didn't know anything. But luckily, I am a student in the College of Engineering. I have a 4.0 and whatever accolades you might require. So maybe if somebody's hurt, be taken seriously for once, I can be mine. Or it can be mine. Maybe I can vouch for all those other people who hurt but are not taken seriously because for some reason pain must have prerequisites. A person like me, who supposedly has the entire world in front of them, can be fully prepared to give up the world entirely. This is not an issue reserved for the far and away. It is in our homes. It is in our conversations. It is in the people we love. I'm not angry. I had to lose my anger because I did not know if God would forgive me if I went to him with anger. I did not know how the host of hosts would respond to my untimely arrival, and I did not want to tempt him. So, in my sadness, I lost my anger and I learned many things. I learned what the color blood is through the tears in my eyes. I learned that the human ear cannot distinguish between the two when their drops hit a tiled floor. But above all, I learned love, the type of love that only can be pieced together by the mechanism of brutal sadness. And so I will love more than I can be hated or laughed at. And for I know the people who are sneering and need the most love that I was looking for. The cost of apathy in life, but the price of life is as small as an act of kindness. I am a life preserved by the kindness that was offered to me by others when I could not produce the kindness for myself. He goes on to thank Coach Day and Ohio State and some other things. He posts the suicide prevention hotline, says that there is always help. And I just want to applaud him because I imagine that was not an easy decision. That stuff hits home for me. I'm sure it hits home for a lot of people. And I don't want to edit this out because I want people to know that this is a real thing. A lot of people struggle with mental illness. And just props to that young man doing something like this for your entire life. I mean, that's what a guy like Harry Miller, who was bound for the NFL, to realize that it was not good for his mental health and take a step back, I think is a massive thing. Good for him. I'm glad that it did not go the other way. Props to Ohio State and Ryan Day for taking that serious because we hear so many stories about how coaching staffs and schools don't take that stuff seriously. It's a sport that I think is very mired in this tough guy mentality that you can't show emotion, you can't deal with that stuff. And I think that it's a constant struggle for a lot of people. And I wish Harry Miller the best. I mean, a 4.0 GPA, fucking congratulations, man. Keep killing it. I hope you're able to continue to go on through engineering and make an incredible, incredible life for yourself because you deserve it 100%. And I am so happy that you were able to get the help that you deserved. That will do it for today's episode. I apologize for ending on a little bit of a somber note, but I do think it's something that when it happens and comes up needs to be addressed. Get the help that you need if you need it. We're all here for you. I am here for you. My DMs are always open on Twitter at SportsFanaticMB. I will throw it up right here for those of you who are watching on YouTube. You can DM me anytime with anything. I've had people who've gone through it, friends who have died from it. I will happily sit and listen to you. We can jump on a call together and just talk. I just want to throw all that out there to anybody and everybody who is struggling with that stuff because it is a huge issue in life. And I'd be happy to sit and talk with you and just work with you and show you the love and show you any love or just listen. If you just need to vent, I'm here for you. Whatever you guys need, my DMs are always, always open. If you do need help and you'd like to talk to somebody else, 800-273-8255. We will be back again tomorrow. Friday will be the last show of this week with more spring reports, more spring practice reports. Sorry again for messing that up. More spring practice reports. We'll catch you guys.